Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. And I got to tell you, I'm actually quite proud of you guys for something. And it's mean for me to be this way, but there's a reason for which I'm quite proud of you, gentlemen. Single moms are now afraid they're going to end up by themselves for the remainder of their youth. And this is not only single moms, but it's pretty much sisters that have any attitude that eliminated normal men or penalized normal men for their normality. This is important. You guys have collectively held a line. And while there are a lot of simps out there, and these simps need to be disenfranchised financially by the rest of us, I must also tell you that we are succeeding if sisters are now online talking about their fears of being single permanently because they are single moms, or let's say even because they're too old, or they're too big, or they just got too much of a dot-gam ucking fatitude. Because they won't settle while demanding that men settle. These are all good reasons. All of them are good reasons. They should be single permanently. No changes, no relief, no hope. Just her and her cats, if she buys them, or her dogs and her toys. This is how it should be for them. And I don't say this even out of hatred or vengeance, but I say this out of just a sense of justice and fairness. Some would say, well, you're a Muslim and you're not supposed to be bitter about fornication opportunities that men don't have. And I generally am not, but I am bitter about when men are treated as less than other men and then lied to about it. That I am bitter about. I'd be bitter if men were doing the same to women, but men, for the most part, are not really out to deceive women. Men generally just don't talk to women about certain things because the women won't let the men talk and inform them. I mean, if I were to sit up and talk to women to whom I'm closely related and try to tell them differently, they're going to argue with me about what men want while I'm sitting up telling them as a man, well, here's what we don't want, and you're doing it. And here's what we do want, and you're saying you will not do it. You have the attitude that drives a man away, and the man that you want ain't going to tolerate your attitude. And while we do have simps, let me give you guys a news flash about the simps that you already know, but we generally tend to forget. Alex Fine is not the man that women want specifically because of what he will stay. Because of what he can hear and then still stay. He can hear Cassie talk about the things she was going to do with Diddy, for Diddy, and then let Diddy do to her. She sat there and I don't even know what the status of the trial is. When I left for my vacation, I stopped hearing about it. I'm back now and I still don't know. We got back on Thursday. I spent Friday and today, Saturday, back in Saudi where I live. And I haven't heard a damn thing about it. But I do know that Alex Fine, for staying with Cassie Ventura, is already not the man that most women want. And he understands, ain't no white chick gonna have him because he was willing to stay with a black Apina. They're gonna look at him and say, you tolerated all of this from a woman that ain't white? You're not a man. These white women would look at him and say, you've got other white men dating black women and cutting them up, butchering them, sending them to the lower room or the upper room, as AC would put it. And you sat up here and listened to her talk about how she abased herself to tolerate certain things from Diddy because of the money he has that you don't. And you're going to sit up here and stay with her when she would never tolerate these mistreatments from you. You better never be late for a date or anything like that. That's what we're dealing with. That's what they're dealing with. And here you are, nice gentlemen, nice guys, tolerating this stuff. And then when the trial comes out, I mean, the thing is Cassie Ventura is really pretty much every woman that looks about as good as she looks or looked. She's about the same. If a trial about their life comes out, if information is really truly investigated, you start seeing dumb stuff like this, like what happens with Megan Thee Stallion. Yeah, that's bad. Megan Thee Stallion is one example of that. A trial comes out, she has to testify. In order to bury the black man, she has to sit up and tell the truth about one thing, and that is that she let Tory Lanez dig her out. So, now the world is beginning to see, really not even now, it's been going on for a while. I remember 2 years ago, one of my students, a black Saudi, when I told the class about the phenomena of passport bros and how now there was a backlog in passport applications being fulfilled. I remember this guy sitting up and saying, yeah, these men are trying to get away from, especially the black women. He was a black Saudi. I had to tell him, bro, they're trying to get away from Western women. This was going on. This was in Riyadh. He was aware of that. The next semester, I was teaching where I live now in one of the coastal cities. I had students that talked about passport bros, and other bros knew about it. This last semester, I had a student I didn't know ask me if I was more into snow bunnies. And I had to tell him, no, actually, my wife was from the home continent. I'm not into snow bunnies, but I know why brothers are getting less into sisters. I understand why. And I told him my son is engaged to marry a woman that ain't black. And I told him, you can't have no Western woman, black or white. You can't do it. I don't really have I don't have the Shari'i authority to forbid you from who you marry. But I'm telling you, for your own good, don't marry them. And don't marry non-Western women that want to be them. And he was like, I know. And that's the thing is, my own mom was relieved to find out that he found someone that ain't black. He was relieved. He was like, she was like, yes. And I'm telling you guys, the thing is that you were doing the right thing by shutting them out. You were blocking them. You were stiff-arming them. You were keeping them away, for the most part, from your assets as best as the law will allow. And you got more and more you brothers out here telling younger brothers, protect your seed at all costs, because, they were pretty much told that was worthless. Hell, it was so worthless that they had to pay to get it up in anybody. And now what is it? Now what it is that they're about to be offered money for the seed. And that's what's going to have to happen. You have pretty much shown that you do have a value, and they hate you because you realized it. And some of them are even saying this. And it's good though that you got the single moms now that are looking like, what are we going to do? Bitch, you're going to find you a single dad. That's what you're going to do. And you're going to have to be there for that man's kids in a way that you want him to be there for your kids. And since you all collectively decided there weren't but a few men going to get to be anybody's biological dads, you're going to be competing for the single dads, because the childless men are going to look at you and say, if we're going to compete for you, we're better off going other places and competing for their childless women. And that's one thing I can say that Becky's do bring to the table that sisters refuse to. Becky's can come to brothers childless at older ages. They got more years in which they can come to brothers childless. And throw caution, and not throw caution to the wind when it comes to reproduction, because they got to think twice about whether or not they want to have a black baby. That is one thing that snow bunnies do offer. The sisters refuse to. You take a sister that's childless and she's the least bit attractive and no man qualifies. Well, that's up to her. But then she gets older, she ages out, nobody wants her. And then all of a sudden these men qualify. That's funny, because whenever they're young and they're cute, they think they got all the time in the world. You tell them you don't. The time's going to go by more quickly than what you think. And as soon as they start losing their looks, then they start to go down in standards. And even then, they're going down in standards too slowly for what the actual mating market value is. Some of them need polygyny so that they could be starter wives, because that's all they're good for. Yeah, you be a starter wife. You're going to train him to be able to keep another second younger wife with whom he can start his own family. But since, all of y'all plan to be difficult, it takes special training to learn the game that the young chicks want these guys to have. Go ahead and teach it to them. I mean, you literally don't have anything better to offer at this point. You got ladies sitting up, they insist on waiting forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And if they finally do find someone, then other things pop up and are problematic. And it does get bad for them. And you're making sure that you're telling them early in advance it's going to get bad for them. You're doing the right thing, gentlemen. You're not there for them anymore. Far fewer of you are the backup plans anymore, because many of you did not know you were backup plans, like I didn't know that I was one. I was unaware. I didn't know I was a backup plan. One of the best things that happened to me was getting out of the States. Now, getting married when I got married in the States was not a good thing. Not getting married wouldn't have been any better. So there was nothing good that was going to happen. Nothing good was written down for me till I left. And about a year and a half after leaving, I was married to the first traditional wife I ever married and was treated well. I was a stepdad, but she was a stepmom. And she saw the value in it. She said, no, there is a place for the man. She said that. Her youngest son was just running her ragged because he was hyperactive. And of course, kids want sweets. So by being hyperactive, he just wear her down, and then he would demand sweets to be pacified. And it was cyclical. And then I came in and I was like, hold up, you're not getting sweets. Now I'm going to get you this fruit over here. And I want to take you to this park so you can run on the playground and burn off some energy, but you're not getting sweets. You're going to get this healthy stuff. And he started to settle and get more focused over the next few days until my trip was over and I had to come back here to work. And I went back, same thing again. I began to realize as a place I was having a positive effect. And she wasn't blocking me from trying to do any good. And she didn't fight me about stuff that I decided to not do. Like one time she said, why don't you take him with you and your friend on this errand y'all are going to run? And I said, because we're on a motorbike. And if he stands up on that motorbike, then I have to hold myself steady with one hand while grabbing him with the other. It's too high a risk of him falling off in traffic. She said, oh, yeah, don't do it. And I was like, I know, don't do it. I can't, not like that. I'll tell you, I don't miss Morocco. I don't miss that. But I guess I would miss her, but I'm married now again. And I just got through traveling with my current wife, and it was a nice vacation for the most part. Two things I had to shake her up about, which is very normal. She had to do the same to me, too. You guys don't even have the option. It's not your fault, but you've been systematically and collectively denied the option to get someone that you can travel with and have a good time with, because they won't let you have a good time if they travel with you. And most of the time, they don't even want to go anywhere with you. Girls trip, want you to pay. Want you to pay them handsomely so that they can go to wherever the hell it is without you. Don't want you nowhere near. But you're doing, you finally have started doing what you need to be doing and what you should have been doing a long time ago. I just don't know what took so long, but I'm glad you the bulk of you came around eventually and did what you needed to be doing, which is to shut them the uck out, because they can't respect you otherwise. They're simply going to look at you and just be like, you're an idiot, you're a dummy. Why would you do that? And you're sitting up thinking, well, why would I do what? I was doing things for you. I was being there for you. And that's why I told you all what I said about Alex Fine. They don't like Alex Fine. They just want to hold Alex Fine up as an example for you and me to follow, because he's still doing what they want, but he's not doing what they want. And the fact that they even have to explain it that way right then and there means that they're bad news for you. And what I'm saying is that really we should have been boycotting them a long time ago. We're 3 decades too late. And it's funny because when it comes to everything else in life, we men have strategized about what we would do collectively and what messages we'll send and what messages we won't send and all of this. We've done all of that. Civil rights movement, we was collectively meeting and strategizing. And now here we are. Just now in 2024, well, it's 2025 now, but pretty much just in 2024, we started to really collectively start thinking about and talking to each other about and agreeing about what we were not going to do so as to not send the wrong messages. Why are these women so promiscuous? Because they could be. They lost nothing for it in the short term. Some of them lost nothing for it in the long term. Why are others of them so prudish? Because they lose nothing for this. So you pretty much have had a system that we built in which they get rewarded smashing who they shouldn't be smashing. And they built a system where they punished each other for smashing who they should have been smashing. Good men that were husband material. It was us that built half of that. They were shaming each other about smashing good dudes, but we were sitting up here rewarding some of them for smashing dudes they shouldn't have been smashing. Because when their lives became a wreck, since these dudes weren't good news, then others of us were willing to come in and swoop in and save the day, like Alex Fine. And usually this was done because we didn't know the full extent of the bad decisions that they had made. We didn't know how common these bad decisions were. Now we're finding out most of them have high body counts. We're finding out that most of them are willing to do just about anything except be there for the good dudes that they demand and expect to be there for them. It's bad, man. And we're just now getting around to implementing the natural consequence that we should have had implemented a long time ago. We're just now getting around to that. I don't know what took us so damn long. And I'm not really in the mood to hear what the hell it was. I understand some of it, and some of it I don't, because I was sitting up saying 3 decades ago when I was a teen, and now here I am in my late 40s finding out, damn, I was right 3 decades ago. But niggas wouldn't listen because it came from me. And it was about these broads. Niggas wouldn't listen because what they heard is, do something for which you ain't never gonna get no draws no way. When really what I was saying is they're not going to let you hit that. And they don't have to. But one of the main reasons they're not going to let you hit that is because you're stupidly chasing after it. How can they respect you? Assalamu alaikum, sir. So there's no way that they could respect you then. And they're not going to. As far as they're concerned, they'd be stupid for that. They look at you and think, well, I'd be an idiot to respect a guy like this. Look at him, always sniffing around my rear, waiting for me to be ready to mate. And all this time, the right thing would have been for dudes to sit up and say, you know what? You ain't too bright. You know what? You ain't too short, because you're sitting up here trying to withhold from me when in reality you should be trying to get my seed. And now because more of you are wising up, others of them are now trying to get your seed. And they're willing to pay top dollar for it as long as you're not the one that gets paid. Oh, they don't mind paying that white man at that lab however much money they paid. They don't mind that. They just don't want you to be paid. And when you start showing up and start saying, we're going to cut this middleman out. If you want this from me, then here's what has to happen. You pay me that. The natural way, but you pay me to do it. You mean I got to pay for the dingling? You're damn right. You don't be telling that Thai bitch that. You don't tell that Colombian bitch that, because you know sisters talk, call everybody the B word. And that's when you say you're goddamn right, because that wasn't how they operated from the very beginning. I pay the cost, but I'm the boss. With you, it's you be the boss, so now you pay the cost. And if you're going to be there for sisters at all, you have to be there with that paradigm. Don't worry, you're not selling out, because they're not going to take that deal. They're not going to do it. But by you collectively offering nothing but that deal, you're sending the right message, like most of you are doing right now. Right now, most of you are like, look, this is what's going to happen. Most of you are pretty much saying this is how it's going to be from here on out. This is what's up. You are going to be by yourself, because ain't none of us here that got what you want going to come through for you. You got that kid over there by this dude, that kid over there by this dude, that kid over there by 2 other dudes. So you got 3 babies and 4 baby daddies. I don't know how you make that work. But since that's who you are, and you coming us and we childless, well, we ain't obligated. So no. Proud of you, gentlemen. Their fear means exactly that I was wrong about one thing. And I'm surprised to be wrong about it. I don't really know what to tell you next, but it's good news, I guess. See, I always told you they can't learn any lessons. You can't teach them what not to do. You can just teach them you're not the one to whom to do it. But you know what? Apparently now you're capable of teaching them what not to do. Who would have thought? So shout out to AC and Line and MGTOW for what they've covered about this. But yeah, and Charles Forte as well. But yeah, they're afraid now of being stuck by themselves. And they never had this fear before. I was coming up and you had big old sisters who were actually going to be by themselves, but they weren't afraid of that when they were younger. They were never afraid, no matter what the hell they did, no matter what harm they caused to one man, they were never afraid they weren't going to find the next. And lo and behold, now they are afraid that they've run out of options. And dudes are learning how to view themselves. Well, not view themselves, but they're learning how to tell how women view them, which is the right thing to do. And they're saying, no, bitch, you're not going to treat me that way. That's good. Finally. What took you so long? Men are finally getting it, though. And they're saying, if this is how you view me, then and this is how you view guys of that particular type, this is how you categorize me, then you're not going to benefit from it. You finally got that message to them. Now that this has happened, here's the part you weren't ready for, and that's why I had to say this for the end of this message. You are probably going to create a scenario in which the women in Pattaya and Bangkok and Phuket and Chiang Mai start to act exactly like whom you left behind, and the ones whom you left behind start to try to get their act together, at least as long as no other sisters are looking. And I'm also going to leave you guys with a bit of insight. Years ago when I went to South Africa, I remember meeting a colleague of mine who is South African. But I met him there in South Africa. I met him there in Durban. And I met his cousin. And I remember the waitress said she was from Zimbabwe. And she said something about how Zimbabwe girls were different because they didn't really have that much backside. And he, who was apparently engaged to Mary, actually said, "Oh, really? Let me see." He, being a bit of a flirt. And he said, "Yeah, let me take a look." And we all laughed a little bit. And, but later on, it was earlier, a few months ago, I mentioned this to him. I recalled this incident with him. And he said, "Oh, yeah, that's something in our culture where you have to, you got to find some way to compliment the woman's looks or beauty. It's a part of the culture. You got to do it." And I asked him, "And how's that working out for y'all?" He said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, you have to do something like that in your culture. How are they behaving? I mean, since you all have to do that, how are they behaving towards y'all? Are they faithful? Are they reasonable with the lobolas that they demand? Are they honest? Or do you guys face a lot of infidelity, false paternity attributions, high demands for the lobola, meaning the dowries to get married, materialism, stank attitudes?" And he said, most of the time it's the latter. I said, "Yeah, South Africa's lost, and we all know it. We know that. And we ain't South African. Your cousins in the States, know that your country's lost when it comes to that." So what I'm saying to you is that custom is actually a very good custom for the women you'd like to marry. It don't mean a goddamn thing. It's not going to do a goddamn bit of good for any other woman, unless you can couple that with an honest critique of something else that they actually have control over, a behavior that they should improve, or a reminder or something like that. Because just, this notion that you just have to compliment the looks ain't going to do nothing but feed the ego. And we already know you feed their ego, and you treat them like a celebrity, and they treat you like a fan. And he mentioned how years ago, he said, "I forgot that you can be really hard on women that don't appreciate men. I forgot, but years ago, I did notice that and I forgot about it. But now in more recent years, I can kind of see why it's the case." They haven't learned a lesson in South Africa. But you've actually successfully taught them beyond my expectations in the States. Good job. Keep it up. And maybe the next generation of young brothers won't have to go through the same things we did. Thank you for listening. As always, Until next time.